Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyan. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. Oh Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters, O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 9th Adhyaya, Rajavidya, Rajaguhya Yoga, and we are going to read today one of the most complex, one of the most controversial shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, why I use this word controversial? Because this is the 32nd shloka that we are going to read today. A lot of people, they have raised some objections onto how can Sri Krishna say like this, or a lot of people have interpreted Sri Krishna's teaching in this shloka the way they want to interpret, and it has created a lot of controversy. So what is this 32nd shloka? Before that, we will just recap what we read, what we learned from Sri Krishna's teaching in the 31st shloka, that he told us that even a durachari can evolve himself or herself to the point of being a dharmatma. Very soon after taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, very soon after that person starts worshipping the Lord with unstinted devotion, with unflinching devotion, with unwavering devotion. The moment she starts worshipping the Lord in that manner, Sri Krishna says that durachari doesn't remain durachari at all. In fact, there is all the reason for that person to be treated as a dharmatma. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shanti nigacchati. And not only that, that person, although he might be rich, he might be evil-doing person in the past, that person attains the state of enjoying the everlasting peace, the eternal peace. And then he further says, in a very promising tone, he tells Kaunteya, pratijanihi, know for sure, know for certain, Name bhaktaha pranashyati, my devotees, they never perish. The one who has taken shelter at my feet, the one who starts worshipping me with unstinting devotion, with unwavering devotion, with undivided devotion, that one-pointed devotion, that devotee of mine, he never perishes. In fact, he enjoys the eternal peace, and he reaches the state of being a dharmatma. He reaches a stage of being a righteous person, a state of being a sadhu, a state of being a holy person. So that was the 31st shloka. And in this 32nd shloka that we are going to read today, what Sri Krishna says is, Mam hi partha vyapāśhritya tepi syuḥ pāpa-yonayaḥ striyo vaiśhyās tathā śhūdrās tepi yānti parāṁ gatim. Now the controversial part in this shloka is where Sri Krishna says that Mam hi partha vyapāśhritya. having taken refuge in me, those who have taken refuge in me, indeed, O Partha, indeed those having taken refuge in me, mami partha vyapāśhritya, ye api syuḥ pāpa-yonayaḥ. They may be belonging to the inferior births, pāpa-yoni. Pāpa-yoni, a literal translation would be born out of evil, born out of ill. But here, papa is evil, or papa is sin. So, literal translation would be born as a sinful birth, pāpa-yoni. But Sri Krishna says here, pāpa-yoni is also, papa is also termed as inferior. Now, what is this controversy here? Sri Krishna has put three categories: striyo, striyaha, vaiśhyās, tathā, śhūdrās. These three categories, Sri Krishna has put them in the pāpa-yoni. Now, does it mean that these three categories, striyaha is women folk, Vaishyas is people who are into all these commercial activities, the Vaishya caste, or the Shudra, the menial workers, or the overall laborers kind of. Now, are these three, has Sri Krishna put them in the category of pāpa-yoni? That they are of the inferior birth? This point can be debated, taking into account what Sri Krishna has further said about these three. Sri Krishna says that striyaha, vaiśhyās, tathā, śhūdrās, te api yānti parāṁ gatim. Even these three, the women folk, the Vaishyas, the business class people, and the Shudras, the people in that lowest order of caste system of the Indian caste system, the Hindu caste system for that matter, the Vaishya and Shudra. Even they attain to the highest state. Nobody can prevent them, Sri Krishna says. They might be of an inferior birth. Now the point of controversy are striya, vaishya and shudra. Are the women folk, the vaishyas and the shudras, they belong to the inferior births. Now there are several ways of interpreting this shloka of Sri Krishna. Here, one interpretation could either also be that Sri Krishna says that even the people born in the inferior births, by birth, and even the women folk, not only the inferior categories of people, but also the women folk, the Vaishyas and the Shudras. Now, we can consider these to be different from the pāpa-yoni. And even if they are clubbed with pāpa-yoni, no harm for that matter, because these three classes in the society, they have, unfortunately, they had been barred from seeking Vedic education. That doesn't mean that these three categories, they never reached the highest state. If we look at the history of the Hindu, the way of living as such, that again is a debatable point whether Hindu is a religion or a way of living. The religion is, of course, Sanatana Dharma. Hindu is a way of living. Now, in this way of living, we came upon with the caste systems, we came upon with certain rules, certain codes of conducts, wherein women were not freely allowed to take up the education, especially in terms of learning the Vedas, learning the scriptures. But that doesn't mean that there were no women who were not knowers of Brahma. Those Brahmavadinis, since the ancient time, the Gargis and Maitreyis, they had always been there at par in knowledge, at par in education, at par in realization of the ultimate truth, at par with the main folk. In fact, some of the main folk even could not compete with them. Maitreyi and Gargi, they had defeated so many learned men for that matter. People used to get afraid of debating with these Brahmavadinis. How to talk with them? They are so knowledgeable. If we get into argument with them, they will just shred us to pieces. That was their level of realization. So Sri Krishna doesn't mean that striyo are pāpa-yonayaḥ. Sri Krishna doesn't mean that Vaishya are pāpa-yonayaḥ. So many in the tradition of Hindu saints, we see so many Vaishyas, Sant Tukaram, Sant Namdev, Sant Kabir for that matter. We get to know so many of saints coming from the Vaishya and Shudra background. There is no end to it. There is no dearth of them. But in the majority of the cases, that is a deprived lot. Unfortunately, there was a time when the Vaishya and Shudra and the women folk, they were deprived of higher education, but nobody could stop the real Brahma seeker. Nobody could stop the real seeker of Brahma, whether a Stri, whether a Vaishya or whether a Shudra, to reach that stage of attaining the enlightenment. And that is what in fact Sri Krishna tells here. You may come from any background. You may come from a wretched birth. It doesn't matter. The moment you take up to the path of enlightenment, the moment you take up the path of illumination, you are going to succeed. And therefore Sri Krishna says, Mam hi pārtha vyapāśhritya yepi syuḥ pāpa-yonayaḥ. And here again, Krishna is not saying for certain of these pāpa-yonis. Might be. Syuḥ word Sri Krishna has used in this shloka is they might be belonging to that class by their birth. They might be. It is not that they cannot. Syuḥ word Sri Krishna has used in this particular shloka indicates that there is no controversy in Sri Krishna's uttering this particular shloka. They might be born of inferior class. They might be women folk. They might be vaiśhyās. They might be śhūdrās. But yānti, te api yānti parāṁ gatim. Even they reach the ultimate goal. They reach the ultimate stage of illumination. Nobody is prevented. Nobody in this creation is prevented by me to reach that stage of illumination, to reach that stage of enlightenment. That is what Sri Krishna says. Human beings might have created all those barriers. Human beings might have created all those codes of conducts. Women should not do like this. The śhūdrās should not do like this. Vaiśhyās should not do like this. But Sri Krishna says, in my realm, this code of conduct has got no meaning at all. In my realm, Sri Krishna says, in the divine realm, this petty code of conduct, this petty thought process, these petty restrictions, they don't remain at all. They don't have any meaning in my divine realm. Whether one is born of a most inferior birth. Now for that matter, we have the examples of, normally when we say perfect birth, what is perfect birth? Our understanding of perfect birth is one who is healthy, one who is having all the faculties fully matured, fully grown, who is capable of using all the senses, sense organs in a rightful manner. That is the perfect growth for us. But then we also see some of us who are not so fortunate that they can use all their faculties. But even then, such people, they do succeed. Śhūdrās for that matter. Śhūdrās was so blind. Now, he was not a perfect human being for that matter in the strict sense of perfectness. He was born blind. He couldn't see. He had never seen the image of Krishna. But even nobody nobody could block the vision of Krishna from Surdas's mind. When a devotee decides to take up the path of enlightenment, whether it is a perfect birth, whether it is an imperfect birth, whether it is a punya yoni, pāpa yoni, that has got no significance for that dharmatma, for that jivatma who is on the path of enlightenment. Surdas's imperfection in terms of blindness, it never prevented him from reaching the stage where most of the so-called perfect people, they used to bow down at his feet. So that is what Sri Krishna says, that even if somebody is born in an imperfect birth, or even if somebody happens to be born as a woman, born as a Vaishya, born as a Shudra, nobody can prevent them reaching that ultimate goal if they have the strong will, if they have the right determination, and if they have that one-pointed devotion to their ideal, to their chosen deity, to their ultimate objective, their ultimate goal. The moment they have it, nobody can stop them, Sri Krishna says. For those who take refuge in me, O Partha, though they be of inferior birth, though they be women, though they be Vaishyās, though they be Shudrās, even they attain the supreme goal, nobody can prevent it. So that is Sri Krishna's wonderful building up of the confidence that all of us we can live. If I am a woman, I should not consider, oh, I have not got opportunity to learn the scriptures, to learn the Vedas. So what? If I have that determination, if I have that inclination, if I have that firm faith and firm bonding, then I will reach that stage. And this is where I remember Swami Vivekananda's words when it comes to this kind of educating the woman, or bringing this woman to the level of Brahmavadinis. Swamiji is he used to say that before we start looking upon woman as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife, as a sister, let us make a vow to see this woman, to see in the woman folk her individual as a potential to become a Brahmavadini. There is no point of just taking a pity on women folk. They can manage their own. That's what Swamiji used to say. They have got all the strength to come over all the injustices done to them over these centuries. They have got that capability. They have got that way to come over. You don't worry about them. They will come over. So first thing is, don't look at the woman as a mere, wife or a sister or a daughter. Learn to look at a woman as she is a Brahmavadini. She is the knower of Brahman. And that is how, the moment we start looking at women as they are capable of becoming Brahmavadinis, that the entire social fabric of this country will change. That was the confidence Swami Vivekananda had in the women folk of India. So that is what Sri Krishna has taught us in this 32nd shloka of the Rajavidya Rajaguhya. It may be found that in all species there are certain individuals who are a bit inferior. Like in terms of physical strength, I mean that is what the notion goes. Women cannot be as comparable as men folk. That is the notion. It may be wrong. The moment they decide, the woman can beat men even in the physical strength. The woman can beat men even in intellectual strength. woman can beat men even in spiritual strength. That is what Sri Krishna has said. Women as a class are less developed, less privileged for that matter, than men. But those women who know what is their real objective, those women who have decided to attain to the ultimate goal, nobody can prevent, in spite of all those underprivileged conditions that they have come up with. The inferior birth, therefore, is just a statement of fact in this shloka. Inferior birth is some are superior, so-called, and some are inferior. Like in the caste system, the Brahmins and Kshatriyas are so-called superior. But is it that all the Brahmins and Kshatriyas, they reach the ultimate goal? That is the big question mark. And in fact, Sri Krishna has answered that big question mark in this shloka. That it is not that only among the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, only among the main folk who have got all the right to study the scriptures, they can attain illumination. Sri Krishna says, no, my dear friend, no, my dear Arjuna, no, my dear Partha. Even if you are not a man, even if you are not a Brahmin, even if you are not a Kshatriya, you have got every right to come and reach me. You have got every right to understand the true reality. And nobody can stop you from that. Even if you may not be in those three categories of main folk, or being Brahmin, or being Kshatriya. Doesn't matter. So what if you are a woman? So what if you are a Vaishya? So what if you are a Shudra? You are underprivileged, yes. You haven't got that privilege of learning scriptures. But if you have that intent, if you have that intention, you can still cross over all these limitations that have been created for you. And you can just get into that state of self-realization. Now, like Sri Krishna said, everybody comes under my sway. Those who come under my sway, even if they are not so strong, even if they are a little bit inferior from others, that being inferior, that being not so strong, doesn't prevent them from realizing me. And on this statement of Sri Krishna, let us see what Sri Ramakrishna's teaching is. Sri Ramakrishna says, when there is a hurricane, you know, that huge kind of a windstorm, when there is a hurricane, it is not possible to distinguish one tree from another. When that hurricane comes, when that windstorm comes, we just can't see anything, whether that storm is hitting the big tree or small tree. For that storm, all are same. Whether it is a tiny sprout of a sapling or a huge banyan tree, the hurricane doesn't make any difference between these two. And what Sri Ramakrishna says, similarly, when there is a hurricane of bhakti in mind, when there is a hurricane, that storm of devotion in mind, distinctions such as sex, caste, color, and race vanish of their own accord. In the midst of that huge storm, where nothing can remain, if a hurricane comes, it doesn't see a huge, multi-storied building or a tiny house. For that hurricane, all the buildings are same. Whether it is a 25, 50 floor building, whether it is that Burj Khalifa, Khalifa, Khaliza, whatever, or a tiny structure. Hurricane doesn't make any differentiation. Sri Ramakrishna says, the hurricane of bhakti, like Sri Krishna has said, the hurricane of bhakti doesn't make any distinction, any differentiation between man and woman. The hurricane of bhakti doesn't make any distinction or differentiation between whether one is Brahmin or Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra. The hurricane of bhakti doesn't make any distinction if one is high or low, if one is rich or poor. The hurricane of bhakti, that windstorm of devotion, it just sweeps all across, all as one. Then there is no high and low. Then there is no good and evil also. That already, of course, Sri Krishna has told. There is no high and low, there is no good and evil, there is no sex discrimination, there is no caste discrimination. So that is what happens. Sri Krishna says that even those who might be underprivileged, nobody can stop them from attaining me. And that is my interpretation of this 32nd shloka of the Rajavidya, Rajaguhya Yoga, the 9th adhyaya of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. With that, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swami.